Hi, a very good morning. I am Lakshminarayana Gunta, PGT in Zoology at APMS and Junior College Karavanja and also working as NEET Super 60 Zoology faculty at Duppalvalsa, Srikakulam. Today, we are going to discuss the autonomic nervous system. As you know, the nervous system, it consists of the central nervous system, which includes the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which includes the nerves arising from the central nervous system. That is, the nerves arising from the brain, they are called as cranial nerves, and the nerves arising from the spinal cord, they are called as the spinal nerves. As we already have learned that there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves, and their branches, they are all included in the peripheral nervous system. But this peripheral nervous system, it is functionally divided into two divisions. It includes the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system, the name itself indicates it supplies to the skeletal muscles, whereas the autonomic nervous system, it supplies the nerves to the visceral organs, particularly the involuntary muscles. Here, the somatic nervous system, it supplies to voluntary muscles, whereas this autonomic nervous system, it supplies to involuntary muscles, the visceral muscles which are not under our control. Okay. It also supplies to the cardiac muscles. These cardiac muscles, even though they are looking like skeletal muscles, but they are involuntary in function and they are branch structures. Okay. And this autonomic nervous system, it also supplies to the glands. Means, the example, the ovaries, pituitary, adrenal, thyroid, all this. Okay. And it also supplies to the adipocytes. These are adipocytes. And these are the two functional divisions of the peripheral nervous system, the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. Okay. And let us discuss this autonomic nervous system in detail. Okay. This autonomic nervous system, what do you mean by auto? Auto means self. It is a special self-governed auto functioning of the ganglia at the peripheral nerve fibers. Particularly these peripheral nerve fibers, they are motor nerve fibers, which are also called as efferent nerve fibers. Okay. What do you mean by ganglia? Ganglia is nothing but the accumulation of cell bodies. And these ganglia and peripheral motor nerve fibers, they are self-governed. That's why it is called as autonomic nervous system. This autonomic nervous system, it innervates various visceral organs, glands and other organs to stimulate or to accelerate or to slow down their functions. Okay. Means they are auto-regulated. Okay. And this autonomic nervous system, it has further two divisions, the sympathetic division and the parasympathetic division. Okay. This sympathetic division, it is active during stressful condition. Whereas this parasympathetic division, it is active during resting stage. Okay. This parasympathetic division, it rests and digests. Whereas this sympathetic division, it is active during stressful condition. Okay na? Let us discuss this sympathetic division. The sympathetic division of autonomic nervous system. This sympathetic division is formed by the rami, communicants of all the thoracic and first three lumbar spinal nerves. The sympathetic nervous system, it is originated from the rami communicants of all the thoracic, means of all the 12 thoracic spinal nerves and the first three lumbar spinal nerves. Here in this diagram, you can clearly observe, we already have discussed in our earlier segment. This is the transverse section of a spinal cord, and this one is the dorsal root and this one is ventral root. These dorsal and ventral roots together, they form a spinal nerve. This spinal nerve, after emerging out from the vertebral column, it is divided into three branches. The branch which is present, which supplies the dorsal region, is the dorsal ramus, and the branch which supplies the ventral region is called as the ventral ramus. Okay, and there is one more branch, that is the ramus communicans, and these rami of first 12 thoracic nerves and the first 3 lumbar nerves, they form this sympathetic nervous system. Here in this diagram you can clearly observe these 12, they are the thoracic nerves, these 3 they are lumbar nerves, and they together form sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system. As the thoracic and lumbar nerves are involved in the formation of this sympathetic nervous system, this is also called as the thoracolumbar outflow. The thoracolumbar outflow. Okay. Here you can clearly observe the 12 thoracic nerves. And these 3, they are the first 3 lumbar nerves. Okay. And they together form thoracolumbar outflow or the sympathetic nervous system. Okay. The sympathetic nervous system is active during the stressful condition. Suppose a tiger or a lion is chasing a deer, then the deer is under stress. At that condition, this sympathetic nervous system is activated. Okay. The overall effect of this sympathetic nervous system is excitatory, whereas the overall effect of the parasympathetic nervous system is relaxatory. Okay. Sympathetic is excitatory, parasympathetic is relaxatory. Coming to the next division, the parasympathetic nervous system. What is parasympathetic nervous system? I have already told you this parasympathetic nervous system is active during resting stage. Okay, this parasympathetic system, nervous system, it is structurally formed by the 4 cranial nerves and 3 spinal nerves. They are the 3rd, 7th, 9th and 10th cranial nerves. Can you name what is the 3rd cranial nerve? The 3rd cranial nerve is oculomotor, and the 7th cranial nerve is facial, and the 9th is glossopharyngeal, 10th is the vagus nerve. Okay, these 4 nerves and the 2, 3, 4 sacral nerves, they form the parasympathetic nervous system. As it is formed by the cranial nerves and sacral nerves, this parasympathetic division is also called as craniosacral outflow. The sympathetic nervous system is also called as thoracolumbar outflow, whereas this parasympathetic division is called as craniosacral outflow, as it is formed by the cranial nerves and the sacral nerves. These are the 3rd cranial nerve, oculomotor, the 7th cranial nerve, facial, the 9th cranial nerve, glossopharyngeal, and the 10th cranial nerve, the vagus. These 4 cranial nerves and the 2nd, 3rd and 4th sacral nerves, 2nd, 3rd and 4th sacral nerves, they together form parasympathetic nervous system. That's why it is also called as craniosacral outflow. Okay, and this parasympathetic nervous system, it is active during normal resting condition. The main function of this parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest response, and the overall effect of this parasympathetic nervous system is inhibitory or the relaxatory. Whenever there is a stressful conditions, this sympathetic nervous system, it is activated. Means it makes the body ready to face that situation. After the normal conditions are attained, then what happens? This parasympathetic nervous system is activated in order to make the body to its normal state. Means this sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, they act antagonistic to each other. One makes the body act accordingly to the stressful situation, and another makes the body to bring back the body to its normal situation. Okay, let us observe the differences between this parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system in detail. The first one is the sympathetic nervous system. It is also called as the thoracolumbar outflow. Thoracolumbar outflow because the nerves involved are thoracic nerves and the first 3 lumbar nerves. Whereas the parasympathetic nervous system, it is called as craniosacral outflow. Okay, because it involves the cranial nerves and sacral nerves. These are cranial nerves and these are sacral nerves. Okay, na? And the next important difference is the nerve fiber which is present in between the ganglion and the spinal cord is the preganglionic nerve fiber. The fiber and the nerve fiber which is present after the ganglion is called as postganglionic nerve fiber. Its one is a ganglion. I have already told you this ganglion is formed by the cell bodies of the neurons. A number of neurons come and join here, and the cell bodies they together form a ganglion. And the most important point here is the sympathetic nervous system. It consists of short preganglionic nerve fibers and long postganglionic nerve fibers. Means in sympathetic nervous system the preganglionic nerve fibers are shorter. These preganglionic nerve fibers they are shorter, whereas the postganglionic nerve fibers they are longer. Whereas it is the case reverse in parasympathetic nervous system. Here you can observe this one is the preganglionic nerve fiber which is longer, whereas the postganglionic nerve fiber is shorter. Okay, in parasympathetic nervous system the preganglionic nerve fibers are longer, whereas the postganglionic nerve fibers are shorter. It is the case reverse in sympathetic nervous system where the preganglionic nerve fibers are shorter and the postganglionic nerve fibers are longer. And the next important difference between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system is the preganglionic fibers they are cholinergic, whereas the postganglionic fibers they are adrenergic. What do you mean by cholinergic and adrenergic? These fibers, these preganglionic fibers, they use acetylcholine as the neurotransmitter. The nerve impulse is transmitted with the help of these neurotransmitters, and the neurotransmitter used by these preganglionic fibers is acetylcholine, and the postganglionic nerve fibers is noradrenaline. That's why the postganglionic fibers they are called as adrenergic, and the preganglionic fibers as they use acetylcholine they are called as cholinergic. Once again I repeat, in sympathetic nervous system the preganglionic fibers they use acetylcholine as a neurotransmitter for the conduction of nerve impulse. That's why these preganglionic nerve fibers they are called as cholinergic. Postganglionic nerve fibers they use noradrenaline as a neurotransmitter. That's why they are called as adrenergic. There is a small exception for this. Preganglionic fibers and postganglionic fibers both are cholinergic in rectoculi muscles and the sweat glands. Okay, but whereas in parasympathetic nervous system both the preganglionic fibers and postganglionic fibers they use acetylcholine as a neurotransmitter. That's why both the preganglionic and postganglionic fibers in parasympathetic nervous system they are called as cholinergic. And coming to the next one, the sympathetic nervous system, it has a complete chain of sympathetic ganglia. Here you can observe there is a chain of sympathetic ganglia. This is looking like a chain. It is also called as sympathetic trunk ganglia, whereas it is absent in parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system it has no chain of ganglia as it directly supplies to the organs. Okay, and the next difference is the ganglia in sympathetic nervous system they are present near the spinal cord. These ganglia they are present near the spinal cord, whereas the ganglia they lie near the organs they are supplied. Okay, means these ganglia they are very near to the organs supplied. Here in the sympathetic nervous system the ganglia are near to the spinal cord, Okay, And one more important point here is the postganglionic nerve fibers in sympathetic nervous system, they are 20 to 25 in number, whereas the postganglionic nerve fibers in parasympathetic nervous system are 2 to 3 only, 2 to 3 only, okay? Because the sympathetic nervous system, it supplies nerves to many organs. Suppose a dog is chasing you, then what is the condition? Our heartbeat increases, our blood pressure increases, our eyes dilates, the breathing rate is increased, and glucose is released, more amount of glucose is released in order to run faster, and all these conditions. That's why the sympathetic division, it has to supply nerves to number of organs. That's why in sympathetic division, the postganglionic nerve fibers, they may range from 20 to 25, whereas the parasympathetic nervous system, it is only 2 to 3, 2 to 3, okay na? And the overall effect of this sympathetic nervous system is excitatory, whereas the overall effect of this parasympathetic nervous system is inhibitory. Excitatory, inhibitory, sympathetic, excitatory, parasympathetic, inhibitory, okay? And let us recap all these differences once again in a tabular form. The first one is the sympathetic nervous system. It is also called as the also called as the thoracolumbar outflow, whereas the parasympathetic nervous system is called as craniosacral outflow. In sympathetic nervous system, the preganglionic nerve fibers are short, whereas the postganglionic nerve fibers are longer. And whereas in parasympathetic nervous system, the preganglionic nerve fibers are long and postganglionic nerve fibers are short. Okay. The sympathetic nervous system, it forms sympathetic chain of ganglia, whereas there is no chain ganglia in parasympathetic nervous system. And the next difference is the chain of ganglia which is present in sympathetic nervous system, it is very near to the vertebral column of the spinal cord, whereas in parasympathetic nervous system, as there is no chain of ganglia, the ganglia, they are present near the organs supplied. And the sympathetic nervous system, it is active during stressful conditions, whereas this parasympathetic nervous system, it is active during resting conditions. Rest and digest is the function of parasympathetic nervous system. And the overall effect of the sympathetic nervous system is excitatory, whereas the overall effect of the parasympathetic nervous system is inhibitory. And coming to the pre-fibers and post-fibers, the pre-fibers in sympathetic nervous system, they are cholinergic, as they use acetylcholine as the neurotransmitter, and postganglionic nerve fibers in sympathetic nervous system are adrenergic, as they use noradrenaline as the neurotransmitter. But whereas in parasympathetic nervous system, both preganglionic nerve fibers and postganglionic nerve fibers, both are cholinergic, as they use acetylcholine as the neurotransmitter. Okay, and these are the differences between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. I think now you are well aware of these differences between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. We have completed the structural differences between sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions. Now let us move to the functional differences. What are the functional differences? The effects of autonomic nervous system are like this. Heartbeat is increased in sympathetic nervous system because there is a stressful condition. As there is a stress, what happens? Automatically our heartbeat increases in order to increase the blood flow to face that situation. Okay, as it is excitatory, it happens. And what happens to the heartbeat in parasympathetic nervous system? As the conditions are normal, what happens? The heartbeat which is increased, it has to be brought back to its original state. That is, the heartbeat is decreased in the parasympathetic nervous system. Similarly, the blood pressure, BP, is also increased in the sympathetic nervous system, and this BP is decreased in the parasympathetic nervous system. The walls of the blood vessels, they constrict in the sympathetic nervous system. When the sympathetic nervous system is active, they constrict. What happens? Automatically, the lumen of the blood vessels is decreased. As the lumen of the blood vessel is decreased, what happens? The blood flows with more pressure. That is why the blood pressure is increased when the sympathetic nervous system is active. Whereas with the effect of parasympathetic nervous system, the peripheral blood vessels they dilate, thereby the lumen of the blood vessel is increased. Automatically, the blood pressure is decreased. I have already told you, during a stressful condition, what happens? Our breathing rate is increased. The rate of breathing rate is increased with the effect of sympathetic nervous system, whereas it is decreased with the effect of parasympathetic nervous system. In order to face the stressful condition, our body needs more oxygen and more glucose. Okay, that's why the alveoli they expand by the effect of sympathetic nervous system. They constrict because of the effect of parasympathetic nervous system. When we are angry, or when we are fighting, or when we are facing a stressful situation, what happens? Automatically our perspiration is increased, sweating is increased. That's why the perspiration is increased in the sympathetic nervous system, whereas it is decreased with the effect of parasympathetic nervous system. The pupil, whenever we are angry, automatically our eyes they become bigger. That is, the pupil is dilated with the effect of sympathetic nervous system. Whereas when we are calm, the parasympathetic nervous system is active. During that day, the pupil is constricted. And I have already told you the effect of parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest. The case with the digestive system, it is different. Here you can observe the saliva, secretion of saliva is decreased with the effect of sympathetic nervous system, and it is increased with the effect of parasympathetic nervous system. That is the reason those persons who are always angry, they face the problem of gastritis and the problem of indigestion. As the sympathetic nervous system is in those persons, as it is more active, what happens? All these digestive juices they are secreted in lesser amount, thereby leading to number of problems related with the digestive system. Okay, the effect of parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest. That's why in all these cases which are related to digestive system, you can observe a reversal of case. Okay, and similarly the peristalsis, the wave-like movements in the esophagus, they are decreased with the effect of sympathetic nervous system and increased with the effect of parasympathetic nervous system. And similarly the release of gastric juice, bile juice, intestinal juice, pancreatic juice, all these digestive juices which are responsible for the process of digestion, they are decreased with the effect of sympathetic nervous system, and whereas they are increased with the effect of parasympathetic nervous system. And one more thing, what happened to the production of insulin? If we have to face the stressful condition, we require more amount of glucose. As we require more amount of glucose, the glucose it should not be converted into glycogen. That's why there is less requirement of insulin. That's why with the effect of sympathetic nervous system, the insulin production is decreased, whereas with the effect of parasympathetic nervous system, the insulin production is increased. And whereas the case is reverse with glucagon. Glucagon, it converts the glycogen into glucose. Okay. And when you are in a stressful condition, you need more amount of glucose. So this reserve food, which is in the form of glycogen, it should be converted into glucose by the action of glucagon. Okay, by the action of glucagon. And this hormone production, that's why it is increased with the effect of sympathetic nervous system, whereas it is decreased with the effect of parasympathetic nervous system. And similarly, most confusing one, the urinary bladder. When the sympathetic nervous system is active, the urinary bladder it get relaxed so that it can accommodate more amount of urine. That's why the urinary bladder it relaxes with the effect of this sympathetic nervous system, whereas it constricts with the effect of parasympathetic nervous system. When you are free, when you are relaxed, then you feel the urge to pass out urine. These are all the effects of autonomic nervous system. Thank you for watching, and follow me on YouTube simply by typing Lakshmi Narayana Gunta. Thank you for watching.